Joining me now, Congressman Mark Harris, a Republican from North Carolina. Congressman, just absolutely stunning, and I know a lot of folks are still making their way through the report. What say you?
Well, it's an incredible report, Todd, when you think about it. And this is really the first report of this weaponization working group that the Trump administration's Justice Department set up under Pam Bondi soon after taking over the Justice Department as Attorney General to look into these very issues that are being highlighted here. And it certainly is tragic. And I'm glad you mentioned the case of Mark Houck, because it was one of the most egregious that I can think of. But when you really look at this, it is a real problem, the weaponization of our Justice Department. And I'm very grateful to hear Todd Blanche, who's the acting Attorney General now, make it clear that there is no place for such actions as what we've seen here. And I'm hoping that they're going to be able to move to make sure that these things never happen again.
Before you became a congressman, you were a pastor, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts about Pope Leo the Woke. Had 3 cardinals denouncing the wars in Iran, mass deportations. All I can, here's my take on this, Congressman. If you are in the ministry and you're going to jump into the political arena, you got to put on your big boy pants, and you got to be willing to get some back and forth going.
You really do, Todd. And I mean, look, I don't think anybody is shocked that the Pope would come out and speak against war. I get that. But I think it's important to understand as believers, we've always, and I think within the Catholic Church, also understand the importance of the doctrine of just war. And that is something that is real. And I think the thing that bothered me the most about it, and I certainly didn't feel like the president needed to get into a Twitter war with Pope Leo. But I do think that it's important that the Pope understand that he needed to quit putting out statements that made America appear to be the aggressor in this situation. Somehow he's forgotten that we're dealing with the #1 state sponsor of terrorism. Maybe he's forgotten. I'm old enough to remember when those hostages were taken in Iran during that revolution in 1979. I remember the bombing that killed our Marines in Beirut. I remember those things that took place. And I remember when on October 7th that Hamas went into Israel and slaughtered all of those people and raped and killed at every turn. So I'm sorry, but America is not the aggressor in this situation. They're making sure that the #1 state sponsored of terrorism in this country will never have a nuclear weapon and to take out their military, which is exactly what President Trump has sought to do.
All right, Congressman, but here's where I just don't get it. So you got Joe Biden, who's a Catholic. I'm wondering why they didn't excommunicate this guy. But I didn't hear a single word from the Vatican when they were spying on Catholic churches and trying to recruit priests to become spies in Richmond, Virginia, and other parishes. I don't recall them issuing any sort of a condemnation when they were arresting pro-life grandmas and knocking down the front doors of the homes of these pro-lifers. So I just don't get that, Congressman.
I think you're exactly right. Listen, whenever you're going to speak truth to power, you better be consistent. And when it comes to the pro-life issue, it's very important that the Pope maintain those kind of statements about the value of life. And your point is well taken, Todd.
All right. Well, Congressman, we're going to have to leave it there. We really appreciate you joining us this afternoon. Thank you. And still ahead, 2